Yeah, I mean, you've got to come to a point where you have to talk through the voice. And what I mean by that is not be so focused on it, but just get your point across. You know, just focus on what you want to get across and just get it across. And not worry about sound, not worry about the voice. And honestly, you come off better anyway because you're more relaxed. When you start getting uptight, when you start getting like nervous about it, or you start self-directing, that's when things start to go to shit. You know what I mean? It's so easy for it to do that. Like a recording phone conversation, I hate to hear myself. It's easy. It's the voice, you know, people's looks. You know, we always go for something. Exactly. Yeah, you got to throw it to the side and just say screw it. You got to, you know, push on beyond it. I still have issues with it too. So it's like I'm not sitting here going, oh, it's easy or anything. It's not. I still work through it. And that's after 10 years of doing film, theater, voiceover, podcasting, etc., etc. I just constantly keep throwing myself out there, though, and not let that distract me. I still have my moments, even streaming. I might bumble over a word because I'm hearing it, and to me, I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound right. I think I'm going to screw it up. But as soon as I think that, I do. Tremendous stage fright, so yeah, I do get super tense. And that's totally fair, honestly. It's totally fair. So I'm stressing about the fact that I'm on a stage. And honestly, there's no perfect way of taking on stage fright, by the way. For anyone who's listening, who's intrigued by the conversation, it's just going out and doing it. It's doing it enough where you work through the emotion. But at the same time, gauge your stress levels. It's important to work through it and to just do it and experience it, but don't push it. If you're having a really bad night or something like that, and you know you're just already stressed out, don't go, well, I'm going to push myself in a very uncomfortable position. Like, listen to your body as best as you can, listen to your mind as best as you can, because you could actually be amplifying the situation and making it worse. And then you're regressing rather than progressing. Like, if you look up behavioral cognitive therapy, BCT, that is a lot of that. It's trying to reprogram our brains and always putting in the question of, well, what's the worst thing that'll happen? And being like, that's a legit question to answer. If I was to go up on stage, if I was to play PvP in this game, you know what I mean? Like, everyone gets stage fright in some sort of situation. You've got to look at it and go, well, what's the worst thing that happens? Okay, well, if I'm playing a game, I lose. Okay, is that the end all be all? No. Oh, okay then. What does it matter, you know? If I go up on stage, what's the worst thing that happens? No one laughs if I'm making jokes. No one pays attention. Okay, then that's fine. You're still getting that experience. I think too many of us, and especially as gamers, I think too many of us look at the end result and forget about just playing the game. You know, we forget about the journey and just focus so much on the destination. That's why there's so many of these games, by the way, where they push cosmetics and like, well, you have to grind for it, you know? So let's say if you're in Dead by Daylight, do 5 pallet stuns to the killer. Or if you're the killer, kick 15 things, pallets or generators, let's say. Yeah, that's great to get people in there and to play the game more, right? Quicker queues, you're getting more people engaging. They feel like they're getting something, but they're not really playing the game. They're grinding what they have to get a thing. And so they're so focused on the destination that they stop playing the game, and it still stops being fun. It's just work. So I think, you know, with the bumps and bruises that we take, whether it's performance, playing a PvP game, going out of our comfort zone with anything, you just have to be willing to take those bumps and bruises and be in that moment. You know, focus on the journey, not on the destination. So, I mean, like, for instance, with streaming, I had no idea, and I still don't know what the destination is. I'm just here for the journey. I'm here to hopefully find some like-minded people, or even if we agree to disagree, that's okay. But to come together and talk and have cool conversations and enjoy some great games and, you know, share really cool moments. I think there's something to that, and I'm okay with taking the bumps and bruises of throwing myself in front of a camera. Because there are plenty of people that at that point try to rip you down, you know? We had 2 people that came in yesterday trying to troll and was like, "You're ugly. You wear glasses." All right, cool, ban. Like, you know, like it used to be like when I first started that would actually hit pretty hard for whatever reason. You know, you just want to be liked. That's all. But it's like, you know, you just go for that journey and expect people not to like you. You've got to expect people to, you know, talk shit to you because you're putting yourself out there. It's going to happen, and that's okay. It's where you take yourself as what matters. You know, you need to focus in on that. Those people aren't going to be there for you, and you don't want them to be there, right? Because they're toxic anyway. So great, you don't like me, you want to talk shit? Great, move on. I'm doing my thing still. I don't need you, nor do I want you around. You're bad for my mental health. It's okay to say that to people, you know what I mean? And you just keep doing what you need to do. I find saying to myself, what's the worst thing that happens? But as soon as I pick up the mic, my stomach sinks and I get lost. I'm so focused on myself that I don't even notice the people laugh. It's fair, right? Our body goes into fight or flight. This is a very in-depth conversation. We're talking about psychology here, so I apologize. But what I want to say, it's our fight or flight mechanism in our body. And our body's just trying to protect us. So when you go through something like that, one of the biggest things that can help you is to actually be thankful that your body's doing that. I know it sounds weird. It doesn't sound correct in comparison to like putting a circular peg through a square hole. But like you have to be willing to accept that, because what happens is when people get into those moments, whether you're performing or you're, again, trying something new in a game or whatever else, when you catch yourself doing that, you start getting angry with yourself and you start getting lost in yourself, as you're saying. And it's okay to be like, you know what, thanks, body. Like, you're trying to help me the best that you can. It's a survival instinct. And it's okay to be with that, because if you fight against it and you get frustrated with it and go, well, fuck, you know, my stomach's in a knot, I'm sweating, I'm, you know, da-da-da-da-da. It all starts with you, and then you start extrapolating out and projecting out to the audience and what they're thinking. Oh, and they probably hate me, and they see that I'm feeling awkward and blah, blah, blah. Just go, all right, body, thanks, I appreciate it. But we're okay. And honestly, there is a lot of power behind the phrase, I'm okay. I'm okay, we're okay. We don't hear it enough, and we don't say it enough. But if we start doing more of that, honestly, it's going to be a hell of a lot more impactful to our mental health if we start doing that. You start doing that, you start feeling the weight of the world off your shoulders a lot more. Now, again, this is just personal experience, and so I'm not a health professional. I'm not licensed in anything. I've seen plenty of my own therapists and, you know, psychiatrists and whatever else, and I've always had an interest in psychology. But this is just my own personal experiences, you know? I'm taking my tool bag around with me, and I'm just trying to, you know, share my thoughts. But that's all they are, is thoughts, so take them as you will. It's more about them than whoever they're trash talking, to be honest. And that's true too, right? You start seeing the insecurity there. You know, there's a big difference between force and power. There are people who have power who don't need to be forceful, who don't need to try to cram an idea down someone's throat, or who don't feel like they need to go and attack someone randomly. And then there's people who feel like they have no power, and they try to be forceful, and they try to apply that aggression to someone. You know, they had a shitty day, and now they're attacking someone in a game. They're being super toxic about it for no reason. You know, or maybe they're angry at someone that they played with, but that person already left the lobby. So now they're just yelling at someone else randomly just because they want to vent. It's all on them in the end, you know? So you just go, that's nice, and move on. It's not easy. It isn't easy. It never is going to be fully easy. But it will become easier, if that makes sense. I've had people walk up to me after the show and say that was hilarious, and I'm, what are you talking about? And no one laughed. And they go, no, people were... It's true, though. It's true. Being in theater, I've done plenty of comedic shows where it didn't seem like anyone was laughing. But it's because it's also an expectation thing. Like, oh, well, laughing should be like loud and boisterous and should be just, you know, it should be echoing throughout the theater. And it's like, well, no, people also just kind of chuckle and everything like that. Or, you know, no one wants to be, a lot of times, like, it's weird. When we're in a group, we don't want to be the one that stands out a lot of times. And so people, I feel like, especially audiences, have even a hard time. They have sort of stage fright, where they don't want to be the one laughing too loud and having people looking at them weird. So it's interesting because just as the performer has that stage fright, so does the audience. And the audience gets really kind of concerned about, like, showing that they're too shocked or surprised at a moment, or that they're just able to laugh and be able to do that without feeling like they're being judged. And I think going into that actually helps with easing some of that tension as a performer, as someone who's looking to try to do something new. Just know that the other people that you're, in a game that you're either going up against or that you're presenting in front of also could feel very nervous themselves and could be going through a very similar feeling as you, but in another context, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's a thing heavily in Latvia. It's fair. When I went to Egypt during the time when I was in university, one of the X-Men films came out. And there was a moment that was really funny to us Americans. And so we just laughed. Everyone else looked back at us like we had 5 heads. And so again, it's a cultural thing too. Yeah, different cultures are going to have certain expectations. It is what it is. But overall though, you know, just knowing the fact that they're kind of going through a similar thing kind of helps too, right? Because especially as an entertainer, you're there to help release some of that anxiety that they're feeling and just get them to laugh. You know what I mean? And so if you even see people smiling, run with it. Let that be fuel too. You know, try to find even the smallest thing that can motivate you and stoke the fires. And that's huge. So, you know, again, the expectation of huge laughter in comparison to, like, cool, someone smiled. I'll take that. I'll take that. Someone smiled, nodded, and looked over and started talking to someone about what I just said. I'll take it. That's totally fine. Latvians are super quiet. Nobody talks to anyone that they do not know. Bus street. See, and there you go, right? That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And it happens here in the U.S. too. You know, I mean, Americans are known to be, like, more boisterous and stuff like that. But there's been plenty of times where I've had an audience, you know, I performed in front of 300, 400, 500 people, silence. But then afterward, they, like, seek you out. Because I don't really like the meet and greets afterward. I feel weird because I'm like, well, I performed for you. I'm not here for attention. I'm just here to create the character, tell the story, and hopefully entertain you. That's it. The meet and greets are weird because I feel almost like, yes, put me on a pedestal or something. You know, you get pushed out into them. The director's like, get your ass out there. So you go out there. But you have people that find you out and go specifically to you. And like, hey, by the way, thank you so very much. That was so good. I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. I'm sorry, you were laughing? That's laugh. What is loud to you? Like, but it is. It just is what it is, you know? And sometimes we get so focused in our own head, we actually don't hear the things around us. You know, there's so many aspects. There's so many things to it. It's kind of, in streaming too, like, streaming is the extreme to that because there is no audience, but there is. You know what I mean? Like, we have a live audience here. We have some folks hanging out watching this, but I can't hear you. I don't get a response. So I just hope that if I say something funny, if I crack a joke, that you find it funny and you laugh and I make you feel good. That's my hope. But I'll never know that unless someone throws a lol in chat. Then I'm like, all right. But even then, it's like, well, are they laughing at me? Are they laughing with me? I have no freaking clue. But cool, all right, they're laughing. Cool. We'll start from there and we'll work our way up, you know?